In an unprecedented revelation that shocked the world, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu exposed Iran's diabolical plan to build nuclear weapons and ultimately thrust the world into nuclear war.
You can listen to Iran's Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei.
I stress that the Islamic Republic has never been after nuclear weapons.
You can listen to Iran's President, Hassan Rouhani.
Nuclear weapons and other weapons of mass destruction have no place in Iran's security and defense doctrine and contradict our fundamental religious and ethical convictions.
This is repeated by Iran's Foreign Minister, Javad Zarif.
We didn't have any program to develop nuclear weapons. Anyway, we consider nuclear weapons both irrational as well as immoral.
Well, tonight I'm here to tell you one thing. Iran lied.
How did Israel successfully penetrate the most protective and secretive bunker in Teheran and extract thousands of files from under the Iranian regime? What does this mean for the nuclear deal with America? Why is all this happening on the week we celebrate Lag BaOmer? And the one question nobody seems to be asking is, why does Iran want to destroy Israel in the first place? This week on Israel Inspired.
And now, live from Jerusalem, you're listening to Israel Inspired Radio. Here are your hosts, Rabbis Ari Abramowitz and Jeremy Gimpel.
Shalom, you were listening to Israel Inspired on the Land of Israel Network on thelandofisrael.com. Ari Abramowitz here. Shalom, Jeremy.
Shalom, how you doing?
I'm doing well. A lot of excitement.
It's always exciting in Israel.
It is always exciting in Israel. And not only like on a national level, on a communal level now, on the farms, so much is happening out here. I don't even like calling it the farm. What do you call it?
I don't know. Hamakom.
The place.
The place.
I often just call it our place here in the Judean mountains. But it's settling in, the spiritual retreat center. I like that also. So much is going on here, but then in the world, nuclear war are the winds blowing?
We've been talking about this for years.
I know. And in the scheme of things, okay, so we were off 1 or 2 or 3 years. Like,
exactly.
That is total accuracy.
I mean, people get so mad. The nuclear holocaust of 2014, then we had to move it to 15, then 16, then 17. Okay, we were a few years off, but it's happening now.
Right. Well, hopefully not. Hopefully it's not happening. But certainly there's a lot of nuclear talk going on.
Well, mazel tov on your engagement.
That. Well, thank you.
That's very exciting. I really like her.
She's a very high level neshama.
Higher than you.
That's definitely true.
Absolutely. I like her more than I like you.
That's something. We just had our engagement party
on a rooftop in Jerusalem. It was
rooftop
beautiful.
in Jerusalem. Can I just tell you my favorite? I gave us 3 blessings. Over maybe it was like a 2.5 hour speech that I gave. I don't remember how long it was, but I had what to say and I was going to say it. And my friends, they'll enjoy it because they've been with me on the journey, and the people that are okay, so they got to sit through a thing. But my favorite, when I think about that, my favorite blessing that I gave us was that we're out here in the hills of Judea, in the hills that Amos had his prophecy. And in his last prophecy, he said this, and I said, Shana, I bless us that we should plant vineyards and drink their wine, that we should plant gardens and eat their fruit, and we should be rooted in this land and never be uprooted again. That is such a blessing, and that's really what my prayer is for our life together out here, please God.
Yeah, I think it was one of the best speeches you've ever given.
Well, thank you. That's definitely not the song you were singing earlier when you wanted to make me feel self-conscious about it.
No, there were some parts that I thought were a little bit awkward, a little bit funny, but that's what made the whole speech so beautiful.
Speaking of speeches, what did you think about this Bibi speech?
Oh my God. That was the most unprecedented, captivating, out of the box. Have you ever seen a world leader put on a performance like that before? With a PowerPoint presentation, and there were props of CDs and files. I mean, it was so mind-blowing, and I understand why he did the files and the CDs, because it's just impossible to imagine how the Mossad or Sayeret Matkal, how did they break in to the most protected secret bunker maybe in the world and extract thousands and thousands of physical files from under the nose of Teheran. I mean, how did they do that? I mean, I can't wait for the movie to come out to show how Israel did it. I mean, it's just...
Watch it be something boring. You know, like they just slipped some diuretic in some guy's coffee.
Sure that it was not boring. I'm sure that it was one of the most, I mean, it's one of the most incredible feats that Israel has done, maybe since Entebbe.
I bet that the Mossad guys that were doing are like, is this really happening? Oh my goodness, we're actually moving all of these stuff. You and I have had a feeling like that before, you know, like, oh my goodness, is this really happening? But
the speech to me was whoever wrote it, because someone needed to help Netanyahu put all that together with the PowerPoint presentations. He didn't have notes, it seems like. I wondered if he had an earpiece.
He's great.
He
but here's the thing.
A presenter.
Okay.
But let me just tell you the thing that I liked the most about the speech. The thing that I liked most about the speech was the entire world was watching. That's what Netanyahu was able to do because it was such a dramatic television production. The CNN, BBC, Fox News, the entire world, like when Netanyahu wants to say, hey, world, I'm banging on the table, listen up. The whole world was watching. The whole world was listening. And in just less than, 15 minutes, he exposed President Barack Obama as probably the dumbest president in the history of the United States, as Obama's literally giving them billions of dollars to facilitate the destruction of the United States.
Either dumb or sinister. You
That's
remember?
true.
I mean,
That's
I
true.
always think about the story about Haman and Ahasuerus, right? Haman had this big pile. Ahasuerus, the king, had this big pile of debris in his yard, and Haman had a pit and said, here, you know, let me buy that debris from you. And so I think there was a certain synergetic.
Well, let me tell you, that could be. Maybe there was sinister objectives behind it. But then there's Samantha Powers and John Kerry and all of like the Barney and Bailey's circus that ran the Obama administration. All of them now are, it's like deafening silence coming from that administration, from that camp. No one knows what to say. They haven't responded. They're very active on Twitter. They're very active on all of their social medias. No press release has been sent out. It just exposed the truth to the world. And it was, I've just never seen a world leader ever do anything even close to what Netanyahu did the other day.
Now, you remember the raid in Entebbe? The whole world was watching, and they've never seen a military a military mission implemented with such unbelievable precision. The whole world was watching and impressed. You'd think that there'd be a certain element of that here and be like, wow, Israel, if you were able to get your hands on all this stuff and this intelligence, thank you for warning all of us. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We want to be on your side. But that's not what I see coming in the aftermath of all of this. I just went to Google and I typed in Netanyahu news. Okay, what are the biggest articles coming out around the world about this? The first one, Benjamin Netanyahu, TV star. Okay, so that's the angle that they're taking. He just wants to be a TV star. It's all for attention. Israel PM Netanyahu playing baseless, childish game. Benjamin Netanyahu and his nuclear nothing burger. Constant, even on CNN. Okay, I was watching the CNN interview with Netanyahu, and hearing their response, I was upset by it. There were some very unfair, ridiculous questions that were asked to him. Just look what he's asked right here. Why isn't Israel coming forth to declare, to set what is the sick, twisted perversion of that question? That there's some sort of equation here, that Israel and Iran are somehow on the same playing field. Well, how about just one basic thing? Israel is not calling for the destruction of anyone.
They're not funding terrorist organizations like the Hezbollah, like the Hamas, declaring death to America, death to Israel. Israel's just sitting quietly.
I think Israel should say to Iran, listen, we have no problem with you having a nuclear weapons program, as long as it's clear that we are brothers, we are friends. You open up an Israeli embassy. This is not again. Why would they say, well, what, you're giving me a face?
What you just said now, I've never heard something so silly from out of your mouth before. As long as Iran says we're brothers, we're friends, the entire point of Netanyahu's presentation was showing that all they do is lie. He went from President Rouhani to the Ayatollah to their foreign minister. My favorite part of the speech is when he's like, we have no interest in using nuclear bombs. And then Netanyahu's like, again, listen to this.
100,000 files right here prove that they lied. So here's the bottom line. Iran continues to lie. Just last week, Zarif said this.
We never wanted to produce a bomb.
Again?
We never wanted to produce a bomb.
Yes, you did. And the Atomic Archive proves it.
I mean, they have no problem staring you in the eye, staring the camera in the eye, and say, we have no plans of building a nuclear bomb. We don't know what a nuclear bomb is. We have what is a weapon? What is violence? We don't know. We have no opportunity there. And they just lie and lie and lie and lie. Why? Because they're evil. They are ready to just wipe Israel off the map. Children, women, animals, they don't care. As soon as they build a bomb, it will be detonated either over New York or over Jerusalem, and they'll kill us all. That's what they believe. That's what they want. So, Ari, to say that if they just say that we're brothers.
I know. Okay, it was tongue-in-cheek. I was walking around last night around the farm and trying to convey that Israel sends foreign aid, sends delegations to Iran to help them. They're like, okay, you want to wipe us off the map? Okay, fine. Let us just help you right now. It's just a humanitarian thing. Put that off to the side. That Israel's saying, we have love for all of humanity. We want to be brothers with them. Now, if they continue to seek our destruction, we'll have to wipe out their nuclear program and probably half of Teheran. But that's not why to make this equation that we need to declare and they need to declare, trying to draw this moral equivalency is ridiculous. So anyway, what you should be hearing America saying is we are with you. We understand that we enabled this laughable accord that granted $150 billion to Iran. And you're facing a nuclear adversary which is single-mindedly focused on your destruction. You don't need our permission. You do what you have to do and you defend yourself regardless. But to hear that challenge, it's infuriating.
It's not only defending ourselves. I think that if Iran achieves nuclear capacity, I don't think they're even going to attack Israel first. Why attack Israel first? That'll just rally the troops, and then on our blood, Europe and England and America will all rally to the case and then attack Iran. If they have one bomb to shoot, they're not going to shoot Tel Aviv. They're going to drop it over New York, or worse, explode it in the air above New York and knock out the power. I don't want to get like too
or
trivial.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Or Saudi Arabia, that's a big threat. That's why Saudi Arabia and Israel have a real alliance. It's not an alliance of shared values or vision, but Iran is a threat to the entire region and the entire world.
But, Netanyahu is such a legendary Jewish leader at this point, where he has the entire world on his shoulders. He is attempting to save the entire world. And here's the question, all of those headlines that you mentioned, the TV star Netanyahu, well, he's doing this. If there's one person in the world that knows what fake news is and what media bias is, it's President Donald Trump. And here's the deal. Why did Netanyahu put on this whole show? I mean, the sounds, the lights, the presentation, it was only for one person. It was for Donald Trump, that he should be able to see what the reality is, show the world at the same time how absurd and dangerous the nuclear deal was. And now it's going to take a great leader to overthrow this terrible deal, go against Europe, go against the liberals in America, and show leadership in order to defend the world. But I think all of this presentation, it was literally not for CNN, and it wasn't for BBC, and it wasn't for the Google News, because the media against Israel is always going to be slanted, and it's always going to be biased. The whole presentation was to show the whole world while Donald Trump is watching.
Okay, now here's my issue with that, my primary problem. And let me just say before I say that I'm not anti-Bibi. I really like Bibi. I think that he is kept up at night for the welfare of Israel and the Jewish people, which to me is the most important thing, that he is a leader that actually loves his nation and his people, which is not something I can say for all of the prime ministers that we've had in the recent past.
Not only that, Netanyahu right now is under a lot of investigations for taking cigars and for drinking champagne that was given to him, and there's all these different allegations. I feel like everyone in Israel right now is like, I hope those investigations slow down. Take your time investigating. Who is going to protect us now? What? Yair Lapid, Gilad Erdan? Who would be the person that could even step into the shoes of Netanyahu at this point? He's so much larger and greater than anyone else out there right now. I feel like all of Israel's like, are we really harassing this guy over the cigars and the champagne? I mean, Iran is building a bomb. He somehow successfully sent out a mission to extract all of these files, expose it to the world in a way that no one else could. I mean, who right now could take the leadership if he were taken out of leadership?
Okay, so let me just, I'm not going to say who would take the leadership, who would be a better leader than him, because I don't have anyone that actually comes to mind. There's a few people, that I would like to see in a higher office, but that's not the point. Let me just talk about right and wrong here. What would have been ideal? My problem with Bibi's presentation was not the micro of anything in his presentation. He spoke very well. He articulated himself. He was very convincing. But what was he really saying? And why was he saying it? Why was he saying it in English? Why does he need to make a public argument in English in front of the world to Donald Trump? Should this not have been in Hebrew to the nation of Israel, bracing them and fortifying them for a challenging task they have ahead of them in preventing Iran from developing nuclear weapons? Why do we need to make this appeal? Why are we constantly arguing our case? On some level, I think that that's the reason. Us arguing our case and going out there is inviting all of this negativity and this resistance. You don't see Hamas and Hezbollah doing the same thing. Why do we have to make, if there's truth and justice on our side, if we are not only defending ourselves and every single Jew, but the entire world, and it's coming from that place, we should take a place of leadership. Because let's just take a step back here for a moment, Jeremy, if that's okay.
Well, I just want to correct one of the things that you said there. After the presentation in English, he gave the presentation in Hebrew that simply wasn't covered by the international media because it was in Hebrew. He did address the Israeli people. And I think the reason why he addressed the entire world in English was, if Israel was able to go into that secret bunker and extract thousands of documents, I mean, real files, not just like a download onto a computer chip and slip it in someone's sock. I mean, there had to have been trucks. I don't know. How did they do it? Or maybe a helicopter. It's unbelievable. If they're able to do that, you know what else they're able to do? Anything they want. They want to put a bomb inside Tehran's palace. They can do whatever they need to do. I think that's what Israel's proven at this point. And I think that if Donald Trump does not step up to the plate, and Europe does not step up and realize that the whole world is at threat now, Israel will take matters into their own hands. Just like Menachem Begin took out the nuclear reactor in Osirak, so too Benjamin Netanyahu will take out whatever reactor he needs to take out to defend Israel.
Okay, and I certainly hope that's true, and that's the talk that we hear coming from the administration. That's the talk we hear from Avigdor Lieberman. He's saying, Iran, don't mess with us. And when he's asked questions about the international condemnation of Israel, he says, I don't read foreign media. I like his Russianness, I like the sort of obtuseness that I hear from Lieberman and also from Netanyahu. But let's take a step back here, because you're right. If that presentation was really less about permission and more about an explanation that this is something we're going to do with or without you, you're invited to be a part of it, then that's a little bit of a different thing, because there's different ways one could hear that presentation. So I'm not trying to condemn it, but I feel like there's a certain tone that started already with Netanyahu kicking the can towards Obama, and Obama had to pick up the mantle and go and meet with Iran, and Bibi, as Feiglin said, was on the wrong side of the door there, right? He had outsourced Israel's fate to the EU and to Obama and to this. It should have been never outsourced to begin with. We need to take our fate into our own hands, not fear international condemnation, but fear Hashem and love each other as a people. Because let's take a step back now, okay? Who is Iran? Sometimes so much is going on in the world that it's like, oh, different nations. There's Syria, and there's Egypt, and there's Russia, and there's Iran. Wait a second. There's something special about Iran, and the fact that this is happening with Iran. Iran comes from Aryan. Look it up in Wikipedia. That's where the name Iran comes from. They share a common heritage with Hitler and Haman, all the way back to Amalek. And the decisive, distinctive, unique element of Amalek is the single-minded focus to wipe the Jewish people off the map. Lishma. What's the word lishma? Just for the sake of that. There's no ulterior motives. Sometimes you look around and, you know, there's Hezbollah and Hamas and we're like fighting a war and they want a war with us all the time. But there's something more pure, ideologically pure about Iran, who is so disconnected. It's not like we share a border with them. What is this overwhelming focus that they have to wipe Israel off the map? It's like just a foregone conclusion that the world accepts. But why isn't anyone saying, what is the deal? Well, the Palestinians? Come on. Oh, it's about the Palestinian humanitarian, like, as if that game can really be played.
As ISIS is just slaughtering half of the Middle East.
They don't care about the Palestinians. That whole charade is over. Even Saudi Arabia is saying to the Palestinians, pretty much whatever Trump suggests that you take, just take, because they're understanding that there's a bigger challenge here going on with Iran. It's not about the Palestinians. So the real question is, what is it about?
Well, see, the world could look at Hamas and Hezbollah and they could say, like, listen, this is about the Lebanon border. This is about the Gaza border. This is 67 border. Like, when there's neighboring countries that are at war with each other, you sort of think it's about politics and borders and boundaries and geography. Iran is so far away from Israel, and they're the ones funding the Hamas. They're the ones giving all of the power to Hezbollah to continuously attack Israel. What is it about Iran that they are hell-bent on destroying Israel? No one is really talking about that.
Right. So let's go all the way back to the first showing Iran had on the global stage. Israel in a miraculous redemption, unlike anything that has happened before or since. There was a parting of the sea, and Israel was redeemed from the greatest superpower in the world, and all of the nations of the world were awestruck watching this little helpless people that just escaped slavery, have never known war before, and the first to pounce on them, the first to attack them was Iran. Not Iran, I'm sorry, was Amalek, the predecessors of Iran. And why? Who did they attack? It says they attacked the weak, the stragglers, the weak who are straggling behind. And we've shared this idea before, but now it's more relevant than ever, because I think if we really understand this lesson, we can now understand the situation we're in and how to neutralize this Iranian threat that we're facing. So why would there be weak people that are straggling behind? Well, clearly, if this warlike warrior nation of Amalek is attacking this helpless people, Israel, they're going to be scared. They're going to start to run away. And if they run away, the faster are going to get away faster, and the slower, the weaker are going to straggle behind. But if they said, wow, this massive redemption just happened of the parting of the sea, we are going to love each other as one family, as one people, and we will go as slow as we need to go to make sure that the weak are not straggling behind. If we had done that, if our love for each other transcended and surpassed our fear of them, our fear of the world, our fear of Iran, then we are invincible at that point. It's only because we allowed that doubt and that fear to infect our hearts.
Yeah, I really want to strengthen what you're saying actually from within Scripture itself. And this is what it says. "Vaizanev becha kol hanecheshalim acharecha ve'ata ayef ve'yageh ve'lo yareh Elohim." And it says, and he nailed us from behind. Vaizanev is from the word zanav, which means the tail, that he came up from behind us. And who did he attack? Kol hanecheshalim acharecha, all of the weak stragglers that were behind you. Ve'ata ayef ve'yageh, while you were tired and weary. Ve'lo yareh Elohim. And they did not fear God. And usually they did not fear God.
You
we
think
usually
about
understand
them.
that as Amalek, that they were like, what? We just split the sea. We just had this miraculous victory against the greatest empire in the world, but they didn't fear God and they attacked us. But I think a deeper way of understanding that passage is Ve'ata ayef ve'yageh ve'lo yareh Elohim. It's talking about Israel, that you were weak and tired, and they, Israel, didn't fear God. Because if they feared God, they would do exactly what you said. They would have walked as slowly as they needed to make sure that all the elderly, the weak, the children were together as one camp. Because they wouldn't have feared Amalek, they would have feared God. And they would have acted as one family should.
That's beautiful. And listen, it's not the world that's going right now has 150,000 missiles pointed at it right now. Meaning Iran has successfully, think about all the interceptions of weapons transports that we get. For every interception we get, many others get through. There's 150,000 missiles pointed at Israel right now. When Iran actually wants to launch that nuclear attack against Israel, their nuclear weapon or weapons are going to be shrouded among thousands of other missiles that are falling in on Israel at the time. This is the survival of the entire Jewish people. They want to wipe out, like you said, so it's such a true way, everyone, our children. I feel like sometimes we can, I know for me, I can not take proper care of myself. I cannot care for myself and love myself in the way I should. But when it comes to my fellow Jews, when it comes to the nation of Israel, that it's a different thing, right? I think that the rage and righteous indignation that our leaders need to have, that there's a nation that is seeking to develop nuclear weapons, that wants to kill and murder every single Jewish toddler, infant, all the way, every human being on the planet, definitely within the land of Israel, needs to create such a righteous indignation that we're not seeking permission from the world. We're not making an argument to the world. We're not requesting anything to the world. We do what we have to do in a position of strength and leadership. Because here's the thing. A lot of people, I'm sure, doing in their heads what I'm doing in my head and saying, it could play out this way, and it could play out this way. And once the nukes start to fall, whoever is actually, Russia's nuking this and this is nuking, there's no right or wrong at that point. When the dust settles, whoever's left standing, it doesn't matter if they were right or they were wrong, they were the aggressor, they're not the aggressor. A war was had, there was a defeat, and there's one side standing at the end. And we're playing this moral posturing in a way that's inauthentic.
Yeah, I think Netanyahu's mistake in the whole presentation was it lacked the righteous indignation you're talking about. If we really know that Iran, like Amalek, like Hitler, is hellbent on killing us all, this isn't a time for presentations and PowerPoints. We need to just do what we need to do. And if we were able to extract the information from Iran, we should be able to plant whatever we need to plant in the right places and just knock the feet out under them.
That's right. And I think that America and much of the world, if they saw Israel take a position of tremendous strength and leadership, would actually follow suit.
You know, you brought it all the way back to the biblical source, the spiritual roots of this whole conflict. And you talked about us leaving Egypt, and they were the first nation to attack us. And the truth is, the time in which we're in now, Sfirat HaOmer, is exactly that process. It is the process of us leaving the exile, leaving Egypt in order to receive the Torah. And, you know, in this time, in modern times, Sfirat HaOmer for the last 2,000 years has just been a time of mourning. We don't shave. We don't go to any concerts. But in modern times, all of a sudden, there's now Israel Independence Day. There's Yom Yerushalayim, Jerusalem Day in the middle. And we're celebrating Lag BaOmer this week. And it's this process of leaving the exile where we feel hopeless, where we feel helpless. And now leaving Egypt nowadays is recognizing that we have the ability to declare independence. We have the ability to reclaim Jerusalem. And Lag BaOmer is such a significant holiday for me ever since I got connected to this place here in Judea, specifically because of our cave. You know, half of our cave, the top roof and the walls are charcoaled black. And we brought an archaeologist out, and he said that that black is 2,000-year-old fire from the days of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, from the days of Rabbi Akiva, from the days of Bar Kochba. That cave was one of their campouts where they would light upon fire inside the cave to hide from the Romans and keep warm. And here we are now, just 2,000 years later, in that same cave, still struggling for our freedom in Judea, still struggling to leave Egypt, and all of it is now happening now. But I just feel, though, Lag BaOmer in Israel is so different than anywhere outside of Israel. Lag BaOmer outside of Israel is almost neglected. It's sort of forgotten. Maybe someone will do a little bonfire outside their house, but not even. In Israel, Lag BaOmer in Meron is the largest Jewish gathering in the world. That's pretty significant.
It's supposedly going to have between 800,000 and 1 million people.
There is no gathering in the world that brings that many Jews together than Lag BaOmer inside the land. And so sometimes holidays are respected because, listen, they're mentioned in the Torah. But then sometimes times are respected because the Jewish people are the children of prophets. And somehow we're able to intuit that something special is happening, even if it's not written in Scripture. And you can intuit it in particular inside the boundaries of the land of Israel. That's when the spirit of prophecy really is the connectivity that we have to God. We're able to tune in so much greater inside the land. And the fact that inside the land, Lag BaOmer has become the largest Jewish gathering anywhere in the world is because what does Lag BaOmer really represent? It represents the fire of the Torah that was brought down, the fire of the secrets of the Torah, the spiritual aspects of the Torah, the Zohar itself, all of Kabbalah. It was brought into Israel through Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And here we are now celebrating not just the externals of the Torah and the externals of Jewish ritual, but the soul of the Torah that's now returning to the Jewish people as we return to the land.
You know, it's true what you're saying. The Rambam talks about the month of Iyar, really from Pesach to Shavuot, in some way is like a Chol HaMoed. I don't want to get too lost in the theology of it, but what is a Chol HaMoed? There's the first day of Passover, which is a holiday, and the last day, which is a holiday. And in the middle, it's like a holiday. Not all of the laws are there, but there's still the spirit of and the spiritual potential and opportunity of the holiday is still there. And between Passover, in which we were liberated from slavery, to the giving of the Torah, that is the time in there is a time of independence. And if you think, what is Lag BaOmer also historically? Many people say, of course, that the students of Rabbi Akiva did not treat each other with a proper honor. But others, historical types, say, well, it was also during the revolt. There was a war, of the Bar Kokhba revolt, and they were fighting for independence, and they died in that war. So maybe the spiritual underpinnings of the reasons that they died are that they didn't treat each other with proper honor, just very much like Israel. The reason we were susceptible to Amalek is because we didn't treat each other with the proper honor and love and respect that we should have and kept the weak amongst us. So perhaps we weren't treating each other with the proper honor, and hence we were susceptible to being killed in that war. But if you look at Lag BaOmer, was that assertion for independence and for freedom. But now we're back, and it's also the time where we have Yom HaAtzmaut, the holiday of actual independence. So, but again, this does come down to the underlying underpinnings of our attributes, of our love for each other. So, you know, as I'm looking at these events unfolding and Netanyahu declaring to the world, I always go to the Torah portion, to the Parsha, and try to understand how it's connected, because it's always connected to our times. And here's this from chapter 25, verse 35. Right? It says, "V'chi yamucha achicha u'matay yado." If your brother becomes poor and his means fail in your presence, you shall strengthen him, whether he's a proselyte or a resident, so that he may live with you. Do not take interest and increase, and you shall fear your God, so that your brother may live with you. Do not give him your money for interest, and do not give your food for increase. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan to be for you a God. Now, it seems like a very strange sort of thing. Why does it say it's a voluntary thing, right? It's a voluntary thing. You should be able to give interest or to take interest. You're not twisting anyone's arm. Why is it such a bad thing to do? And why is it say now he's your brother when your brother becomes poor, not your co-religionist, your brother in the land of Israel? There's something about not taking interest in the land of Israel, which is a critical. So the Maharal comes in and he says the Jews are one nation. Someone takes interest and bites, quote unquote, his fellow Jew. He makes the sweet bitter. For interest shows that there's no unity within the Jewish nation. That is to say, Hashem wants us to treat one another as brothers. He says here, when the Jews entered the land, they were completely united into one nation. The proof being that they were not punished for each other's hidden sins until they crossed the Jordan and became responsible for one another. The Jewish people did not completely conjoin into one nation until they entered the land and lived there together, having one common place, Eretz Yisrael. That is also why our verse says, to be for you a God, because they have one common God. There's something transcendent that happens to a Jew and to the Jewish people when we enter the land of Israel. We become a family. And hence, when there's a tremendous opportunity, think about you seeing your two sons, Lavi and Akiva. God forbid one of them needs money. And you're watching a conversation that they're having. And one says, I'll give you money, but there's going to be interest there. It would pain you tremendously. But if you see them say, of course, take money, take it as long as you need it. I know you'll pay me back when you can. would give you tremendous joy. A Jew needing a loan is a tremendous opportunity to show love and to bring us closer together, and to take that opportunity and twist it and capitalize on someone else's misfortune. That is a tragic thing, which perhaps is tolerable somewhere, but not when we're within the land of Israel and we're a family here. Does this make sense so far?
Absolutely.
And that's the theme that I see here. That's the theme from the Netanyahu presentation about nuclear war. If we were coming from a place of tremendous strength in our love for each other, and that love, it's like there's a limited capacity for how much human emotion is available. And if we were so filled with love for each other and fear for God and not the world, then I think that Bibi's presentation would have been different. Okay, I think as we see things play out, we'll see whether it was coming more from a place of permission or a place of warning and saying this is what we're going to do because we need to defend our people. But the bottom line is that I think that if there's one attribute that we need to tap in on personal and national levels, it will be exactly that. It will be the family thing. And, even from Natalie Portman, this thing that happened with Natalie Portman, it's been sort of in the back of my mind because it's so tragic. First of all, the Genesis Prize, they've given to Miriam Peretz. That was a great cause that they gave to. But to give to Natalie Portman, the question is, are they raising the esteem of the awardee, the person that they're trying to give the award to, or are they trying to raise the esteem of the prize by giving the award to big movie stars? Because I think on some level that's a part of the reason there's so much scorn and hatred for us in Israel is that the Arabs around us, the world, or the Middle East, they see who we're glorifying. Why are we glorifying Hollywood? Why are we raising Natalie Portman on a pedestal? What has she done for Israel? Miriam Peretz, that's a good award to give. But the point is, so should we be angry at Natalie Portman? Of course not. We're here in the land of Israel. We've been blessed, a free gift that we're able to be here. We should be reaching out to her and saying, listen, this is not the behavior that someone of our family does. Please come out. Let us share with you what is truly going on. But no, we can never allow the positions of the far left to create hatred or antagonism in our hearts, because we're brothers. And, I just want to say two little things here. I was on Yom HaZikaron, the Memorial Day, at the Givat HaTachmosh at Ammunition Hill. And Harriet Levine, the mother of Michael Levine, who was killed, he was a volunteer, a friend of mine, a volunteer in the paratroopers, and he was killed, and Harriet was speaking. And she said that she was asked, would she do it again? Would she let him join the army again, knowing what she knows now? And there was like a silence there. And she said, I wouldn't be able to prevent him from fulfilling his dream. And I heard the woman next to me. She was clearly visiting from America. She's like, oh, she's nuts. And it bothered me so deeply. She's nuts. She's nuts. That is a mother of Israel. That's a mother of Israel, because she said if it wasn't him, it would be another mother who would lose her child. Why is my son's blood any redder than every other Jew? That is a mother of Israel. And the type of self-sacrifice, Mesirut Nefesh, that's the only way we're actually going to acquire the land of Israel. The only way we're going to be able to bring our nation home and build the temple is through self-sacrifice and the willingness to give it all up if we need to. And so I want to share just something here, because I know you got something to say, but I want to talk for a second about the farm and what's been going on, because there's all these little mini dramas and mini stories that are flowering and developing here. And sometimes if our defenses are down and we're not tapped into the truth that Hashem is in charge of everything, and we buy the illusion that our actions are actually going to make this place sink or swim, it can be a little bit overwhelming. But, the story with Lisa. I'll say her name Lisa. I'm not going to say her last name. But she's the one that came here from Switzerland and stood on the balcony. Most of our listeners that have heard the show have heard the story. And she said that she's had this recurring dream for 15 years that of a certain contour of the land of Israel that she felt connected to. She gave us a wonderful donation that really helped us build so much of this. But in comes the government, and for legal and technical reasons and all of these...
The Swiss government.
The Swiss government, they have frozen her money, and she, to the degree, not only frozen the donation, but taxed her. And this really could come very close to, it's doing her serious fiscal. This is a woman, just to put into perspective, hundreds of thousands of dollars she gave and pledged to us. She won't take a taxi. She'll rather take 3 buses from one side of the city to the other because she's not going to spend money on a taxi for herself. This is the type of woman that we're talking about. And I was speaking to her the other night because she is going through, you think someone like this is doing such a wonderful thing for Israel, the Jewish people, her nation. This is so important. And she would be given serenity and happiness and peace. But one thing after another, and she's really staring down the barrel of a gun, it seems. And I'm talking to her the other day, and I'm trying to strengthen her and let her know that, lefum tsara agra, according to the exertion or the pain is the reward. And wow, the acquisition that she must be getting. And she said to me something, she's like, even knowing what I know now, I would still have given the money and done, even knowing the way it turned out. When I look around, the people that actually join us here, there is a certain streak of willingness to sacrifice themselves on a foundational way. And that is the only way that this place is being built. That's the way, not only this place, but the entire land of Israel, the willingness for the Bilu pioneers to come here and die of malaria while draining the swamps, the willingness to give it all up.
Yeah, that's probably the greatest gift of gratitude that I have, is that I sold my house in Neve Daniel, and with all of that money I either invested it here in the farm to build my house. It's all gone now. And as I sing the song that we sing every morning, it says Azamra le Elohai be'odi, I'll sing to my God be'odi. What does the word be'odi mean? Be'odi means like with all I got. And how many times do we really get to give all we got? And I think we're just arriving at a time now where there are flash floods that all of a sudden just sweep away 10 beautiful souls out of nowhere. The Iran nuclear deal is like, there's natural disasters that are hitting. There's entire global events that are going to change the world. And I feel like all of us need to be all in. Be'odi, we have to be ready to give it our all. And I feel like this place gives us the opportunity to really jump all in. And this is a famous story. We've made a video about this a few years ago on the landofisrael.com YouTube page. You can check it up. I think it's one of the most amazing stories in Israel's history. And it happened right here in our area. It was the year 1953. And Yigael Yadin, a famous archaeologist, found these ancient letters that were written in the mountains here. And those letters were written by Bar Kokhba himself. And that alone was an incredible archaeological find, because there was question marks. Did Bar Kokhba really exist? Was he just this legendary character that people rallied behind? But it's signed and sealed by him. And it was found, it was 1,820 years just hidden away. But it was hidden away and sent off. And Yigael Yadin, who found it, was the first officer of the new Jewish army, of the Haganah. Now, if you put those two together, it's such a remarkable story that the last commander of the last Jewish army sent out a letter that was frozen in time for 1,820 years, only to be received by the first commander of the new Jewish army in the land of Israel. And so the story of our people that ended here almost 2,000 years ago, we are right back in the mountains of Judea, all of us connected here, ready to give it our all. Something is shifting in the world, that the world now, their eyes are on the Prime Minister of Israel, looking for leadership, exposing the truth to the world. And all of it's happening here in the land of Israel. And so tuning in to the land of Israel is where it's all going to happen. This here is the center stage for human destiny. And we just want to say shalom from the mountains of Judea. And we invite all of you to know that when you're in the land of Israel, shoot us an email and come and see what we are building. As Ari said, desolate cities and vineyards and gardens and fruit trees. You wouldn't imagine the paradise that's being built in the deepest settlement in the West Bank today. You'll love it.
So reach out to us, Ari at thelandofisrael.com, Jeremy at thelandofisrael.com. I keep on meaning to read some of the emails that are coming in, because you send us such encouraging, positive wonderful, insightful emails. Also, last week's program, we talked about Yakir Gluck. And I have to say, our listeners out there have really stepped up to the plate and been very generous, not only with finances, but with words of love and encouragement and of healing and of prayers for Yakir. And I know Rachel is very grateful. And I think next week we're going to actually hopefully interview her and bring her on the show. So we are in tremendous times, and we invite you to join us, to not be a spectator on the side, but be, as Jeremy says, pushing the ball up the field. Shalom from Judea.
Israel was founded despite the Holocaust, not because of the Holocaust.
This week on Inside Israel Today with Gil Hoffman, an interview with Naftali Bennett, head of the Bayit Yehudi Party and Minister of Education.
It's not about the safe haven. It's about coming home.
Tune in to hear one of the most powerful people in the Israeli Knesset. That's Inside Israel Today with Gil Hoffman on the Land of Israel Network at thelandofisrael.org.